Thank you so much for having us here. Uhuru, everyone. And I say Uhuru, but I want to remind you of what Chairman Yeshitela told us this morning. It has never been legal for Black people to be free. And as you know, Uhuru means freedom. So how do you bring a people into action in terms of colonialism? Again, I'm paraphrasing our chairman. Colonialism, he gave us some ideas of what it's about. It's the neighborhood merchants who don't look like you. It's the staff in the hospitals who don't look like you. It's the people in the school building and the people who have the contracts in the school building who don't look like you. And what he said was, we have to bring some cohesion back to the movement. And that central theme to bring back cohesion is self-determination. He says, let's put anti-colonialism on the ballot. And so that's what we're here today, to try to figure out how we gonna do that. Colonialism is a mode of production, which means us. As he made it clear, they didn't even know they were white till they found out we were rich and we had all the resources. And then suddenly they became white and superior and could take our resources because they had the army to do so. So colonialism and the mode of production is what we're up against. It's more than teaching Negroes, he said, to run for office. Because as you know, when you look at the Negroes that we have in power, we had a borough president who, when he came in, our community, as Charles Barron, the Honorable Charles Barron told you, was 71% African-American and others of color. When he left as borough president, we were down to 41%, and it's even lower now. In other words, he arranged the biggest ethnic cleansing in our community in a couple of decades. So as mayor, his policies continue to be to help others, although the people who put him in were not the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are getting billions, and there is nothing for homelessness going on in New York City. As we speak, they're trying to dismantle our public school system, which is a legacy passed on to us by our ancestors who fought slavery and won. Without the contribution of the Union Black African soldier, they would not have won. Those of you who know your history know what I am referring to. So we don't just want to run for office, we want to put ideas out there in people's consciousness. Again, I'm paraphrasing our chairman. This creates consciousness development. It's the struggle for democracy. And Charles Barron broke it down. He institutionalized what it means to be anti-colonialism. He has institutionalized the struggle for consciousness on how you fight for control of your institutions. What Queen Mother Moore taught us was you must control the institutions within your colony or your ghetto. She says, Black people who never had a ghetto. She said the Europeans who are known as Jews in Europe had ghettos and they ran them. They earned all the money. They controlled all aspects of the economic system in our ghettos. Well, we don't have that. So I want to take us back a little bit, and I'm hoping that you will bear with me. And I want to remind you of A Dying Colonialism by our wonderful warrior and intellectual struggle against colonialism, Frantz Fanon. And he says the main preoccupation of his book was not to document exploitation or suffering of the people or the brutality of the imperialist oppressor. And I want to thank Brother Comrade Odom for mentioning Ida B. Wells and how not only did she chronicleize the brutality and the exploitation, but she had a plan at the end, a plan against imperialism. And Fanon made it clear his main interest has been to go to the essentials, the spirit of the struggle, of opposition, and the initiative of the masses that struggled against French colonialism. Their infinite, interminable resistance, their daily heroism, their capacity to learn in weeks, in days, in minutes, all that was necessary for the struggle of liberation, their capacity and decision to make all the sacrifices. I want to emphasize that, sacrifices, and their efforts was not only giving one's life in combat, but perhaps more, changing one's daily life, one's routines, one's prejudices, and one's immemorial customs, insofar as they were a hindrance to the revolutionary struggle. So this is what our webinar is about. An army can at any time conquer the ground that was lost, as they have conquered and overturned our revolution of the 1960s. But the past cannot stop the consciousness of the people. And that is why we are here today. So we are launching, according to Fanon, a new society, possible only within the framework of a struggle for independence. The colonized person braces themselves to reject oppression. It's a transformation that takes place within. It's an attempt to destroy the attempt of our conquerors to impose colonialism on us. It's a transformation. Again, I'm paraphrasing Fanon. It's the inner mutation, the renewal of the social and family structures that impose the rigorous oppression of the nation state. And what he says is, society has stripped themselves of the mental sedimentation and of the emotional and intellectual handicaps, which results from 400 years of oppression. This same colonialism that holds the people in the tight meshes of the police and the army is today wounded to death. We have forced a wound into the conqueror. It is now necessary to take it to the next step. And that is how we should see these defeats that we are experiencing against the charter school system, against the release of our warriors, Mamiya. It is the last gasp of this colonial empire. It is up to us to keep the faith and to continue to educate, to organize, to irritate this structure. And I want to give you an example of how that happens. In 1964, 65, I got involved in a struggle for the community control of a school building in Harlem under the leadership of Ralph Poynter and the concerned parents and community organizations. What happened is they decided that if the teachers went on strike and the schools were closed because the teachers' strike had caused a change in the calendar, they were going to follow the original calendar because they did not go out on strike because they knew it was a racist strike. And here I want to paraphrase what people have been saying about the unions under colonialism, how they do not reflect us. The unions in New York City came after us when we stood up and said, me too, we want to control. And I came into a struggle and I saw Ralph Poynter punching out cops. But what really amazed me was the children jumped up and took their school. And those children grew up to become people who tried to fight the struggle. And again, to paraphrase our chairman, what happened? We got Black colonial administrators in as principals, as superintendents, and the Democratic Party gave us decentralization, which Charles Barron has been fighting against ever since he was on the city council, not community control of education. Community control looks like when you control the budget and can have a new school that is a public school. That's community control. And so I want to turn the last part of my time over to the person I saw organize that transformation of an entire community so that they took their schools back. They took their institutions back physically from the man. Ralph Poynter, you want to just talk again about how we fight against colonialism?
Well, my brothers and sisters and brothers, how do you fight against colonialism? Well, we've been throwing around a lot of words, colonialism, capitalism, imperialism. how do we relate to these issues? Essentially, we are a part of this system. The only question is how we relate to that system emotionally, politically, economically. Now, we know we are the working class. We are the poor. We are the unemployed. But that is not the main issue. The main issue is, where are we in relationship to the system emotionally? And this is where the crux is. We see today that the final confrontation of the so-called Crusades, and remember, the Crusades were merely an excuse, a religious excuse to take control of other people's lands and their resources, to take control of other people. We have the new Crusades. And how do you know this is the new Crusades? Well, all you have to do is look at the European countries that were involved in the original Crusades. They're the same ones that are going after the rest of the world. They say Russia is the enemy, China is the enemy, etc. Well, the Chinese took their country back from 5 European countries that benefited from China as a country, that used and abused China as a country, that took gunships into the harbors of China to make sure they had opium there. When the Chinese rejected it, and I'll just say an aside, and now they're saying the Chinese are not working hard enough to stop entrepreneurs in China from creating fentanyl that comes into America. Well, just think that. Just think of the contradiction here. Gunships to force opium into China, and at the same time, years later, say you're not working hard enough to defend our people against fentanyl that they had nothing to do with. They're supposed to work hard to stop it. What a contradiction. And so I said, how do you know it's the new, what did I call it? The new imperialism, the new crusade. The same countries that were involved in the original crusade are in the same ones that are involved in a crusade now, and whatever they call it, they are the new imperialists. And what they want, most important, they want our support emotionally. They want to say it's okay for us to spend your money supporting the crusade against you. That's what they want. That's what they need. This is why they are insecure. And we're here to say, no, we're not going to participate in that. And how do we fight it? Has been said on this program in many ways. We fight it in our daily lives. We fight it politically. We say no to imperialism in our community. We say no to the wars at home and abroad. And when you say no to the wars abroad, they want our help in fighting these wars. They are confronting Russia. They are confronting China. And we've known since 1949, no foreign power can win a war on the Asian continent. And they want our young to go there, witness Vietnam. And the most important words, the most powerful words that were said during this struggle cannot be repeated in America today. The most famous man on the planet said these words, Muhammad Ali. No Vietnamese called me, hey, And when he said that, that meant we're not going to fight those who did nothing to us. We must fight those who oppressed us. And with that said, you've heard so much. I wanted to put a little clarity into that. And with that, freedom, every day, fight for Uhuru, freedom, and the way you think is the basic way to fight that. Good day.